well on either. Anyway, today, guys, we are going to chat a little bit about pricing and how to price your brand and how to really think about pricing in a smart and strategic way. One of the things that I think, hey, thanks for joining. One of the things that I think is so fascinating and interesting is when it comes to pricing strategy and it comes to looking at how you're building your business, a lot of startups actually don't do a very good job of understanding how you can produce a good price point in such a way that's going to help you with really getting the product in front of the customer. And I want to just go into a little bit of detail of what typically tends to happen and why I'm not always the big fan of manufacturers. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that most of the time, a lot of manufacturers and production people will say, hey, you want to make this product? That's great. Go make the product. Here's how much it costs. How great do you want it to be? Okay, like who's the customer? They don't usually ask like, hey, what's the collection planning going to look like? Do you know that your customer is willing to pay this, right? Do you actually have enough substantiation to understand why it is that you are charging this price? Like, where is your brand DNA? Where is your brand strategy? And the reason why is because it's not the production person's job to do that. So it's not a manufacturer's job to do this either, but it's a key component that the majority of startups actually do a terrible job of, which is I have an idea, I'm going to put some money into it, go sample it. I'm going to see how great it can be, and then I'm going to figure out how on earth I'm going to sell this thing. So I can't tell you just how many clients I've had who've come to me, having worked with some of them are great manufacturers, but kind of went into the process misguided and not really understanding why it's so important to be able to know the kinds of products that you are producing for what target customer. What's the strategy behind it? Perhaps you've had a business before. Perhaps you are a first-time business owner who has a consultant or is working with someone like myself. But if you don't, and this is your first time and you just walk into a manufacturing facility and you kind of go after it in this way, the main issue, guys, that you will find is that it's not quite as simple as here's my idea, go make it, and now you have the stuff and you gotta sell it. So the way I would think about it is, you can have a black cotton t-shirt. One could be $5, $50, $250, and $1,500, right? Everything between H&M to Gucci. What's going to be the difference between that product? Well, certainly there are going to be some design changes. Certainly there are going to be some things that are better or worse about their products. But then in the day, they might all be a black cotton t-shirt. So what does that mean to you? Well, a lot goes into branding. A lot goes into your understanding of your target customer. H&M has a different target customer than Gucci does, even though they might be selling a very similar kind of product. So you have to take a look at your photography, your copywriting. Are you going to make enough margin on that product, right? So instead of looking, guys, at pricing your products based on cost of goods, look at placing your product pricing based on customer market positioning. And if you're able to look at your customer market positioning and actually get a really clear idea of target customer, similar brands, brand families, launch strategy, content creation, that whole thing, you actually walk into the design and development process with something that I think is going to be a lot more real for you, right? It means that you're going to be able to say, actually, my margins have to look like this. Actually, my margins have to be dynamic in this particular way, because if they're not dynamic, if they're not on point, then the issue you run into is simply that you have this product, you think it's amazing, but you don't know how on earth you're going to sell it. And so I would say that my ambition or my goal and what I've been able to do so successfully is help people build business models, right, that actually can work, right, with your own budget and with your own timing. So, how that works, and then also getting it out into the world, right, the marketing, the positioning, and all of that. You could build this most amazing, high quality luxury product and have blown all your cash on that product. And then you have nothing to spend on marketing, and then you're never going to sell it. So when you're thinking about pricing strategy, a lot of it has to do with your total budget and how you're looking at the entire lifespan of the company. It's not just about 3 months out and spending all your cash to get you samples or spending all your cash to get you inventory if you don't have the money that you need in order to support that scale and that growth of that. So those are some of the issues that I actually see are the most pressing. I think that it is really challenging right now, when you are thinking about how you are continuing your businesses, right? How you're continuing your growth. One of the things that I actually find is, when it comes to the division of, product and then branding and pricing, sometimes what we end up doing is kind of, we end up almost like doing it all at once, as opposed to saying, hey, like, let me take a look at, I'm pretty sure, you have to really take about from the perspective of like, here's where the customer positioning is. Here's what I'm thinking about my product. Do I have the right product to satisfy that customer? Should I actually be looking at developing a different product and then looking at pricing? Okay, would love to hear about the business model and where we go with how to learn to build one properly with timing in mind. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I would say business model is better than a business plan. I am tired of people trying to build business plans that don't actually get them anywhere. So I'm going to say like no on the business plans. You need strategic modeling and you need to know how to work and build your business. And without having that, you actually just will find yourself totally lost, right? Because if you are not looking at the actionable steps, so that means like merchandising plan, product plan, financial plan. You need to know how you're going to sell the damn thing, right? You need to know like the marketing. It's not just like a, hey, here are my ideas and like a book report, right? It's really about like, how do I actually do this, right? Like, what is the step? So any of you guys who are working on business plans, like, please stop. It's like such a giant waste of time. But what you need to do is be dynamic. You need to be you need to think proactively. You need to have your finger on the pulse. You need to be thinking about the customer. I hate when people say, well, how can I build a brand that appeals to everyone? And, it is, it's like, look at Facebook. Facebook wasn't built for everyone. Facebook was built for a small community of college students. Right? A small community of college students. Yes, it took on, right? It grew, it became something, but you start small, right? So when someone comes to me and says like, hey, how can I build this thing? I want to take care of everybody, or I want this to be the next big thing. It's like, well, how about being something to someone first, right? How about being impactful in small scales? How about seeing impact in community, but your product and your pricing works before you go off and try to like do some national marketing campaign to launch something that you don't know if someone wants yet. So, as far as like how you build the business model, you've got to hire somebody, right? It's like, if you don't come from the world, like it is, it's one of those things where you can't be held accountable. You're only as good as your support team, right? You're only as good as the people you have around you. If you don't have the resources to build a business, try having a hobby first. Try understanding it, learning on your own, testing and playing before you go all in on a business when you don't have the capital or the mentorship to help you do it, right? So these things I think are important. Most of the people who've been in the scaling retail community have heard me say things like, it's, well, I've said a lot of different things. I'm kind of a straight shooter, but one of the things has to do with being a hobbyist. There's nothing wrong with being a hobbyist, right? Being a hobbyist means that you're trying, it's play, it's fun, you're learning, take your time. But if you don't have the capital and you're not ready to invest into building and growing, right, then it's like, take stock of that, like realize that like, there's a reason why not everybody has a business. I mean, we are in this age of, the Uber culture, right? Shopify makes it too easy to launch a business, just too easy. Like it's not okay. How easy it is to go online and how easy it is to spin yourself in circles thinking that, I just need to add marketing dollars to this. You really need to be building out your own strategic plan, right? Start your business the way you want to finish your business, right? You guys should all out there know what your exit strategy is. How many months, how many years are you going to spend on this business before you decide to pivot or before you keep pursuing it? What are the key indicators that let you know that you're actually on the right track? These are all super important things. So we got a question about pricing and samples. No, your sample costs don't go into your pricing costs. Your pricing costs should not be paying for your employees. Your pricing costs don't put in there the cost of your accountant. Your pricing on your budget and planning, like when you're looking at your like business financials, you're not going to say like, here's how much my product costs. Here's how much my margin is. Now I have this much amount of money to pay for my employees. It doesn't work like that, right? It's like most companies don't actually make any money for the first 18 months. So if you don't have the financial capability to keep your business afloat for 12 to 18 months, again, you may want to think about a hobby, right? As opposed to like throwing yourself into something without like having a real clear direction or point of view or knowing what you're doing. So when you're looking at your planning for pricing, your pricing is going to go, you know, I'm going to price this at $100. It's going to cost me, you know, $25 to make it all in, right? And then here's my margin. I have $75 in margin. The point of a fashion brand is, or any brand or business, is you get scale, right? So if I sell 1,000 of these products, well now, right, I've got $7,500 in profit, right? So as a scalable component, it's a matter of putting the right amount of money. So you have your investment, you're putting money, you know how much you're putting in, you have a strategic plan, right, to help you gain sales, right? But your sales start here usually, right? And then you start to increase it, right? So you can see here, this is your margin. This is the profitability of your business. If you have this much that you're putting in that you know is non-negotiable to run your business, and your sales start here and then they start to increase over time, well, you're not going to be profitable here. You're profitable over here. So that is why it's extremely important to be thinking about the long-term future success. And those of you guys today who are building businesses, who are really like, I'm new, I'm just starting. A lot of you guys are like, what do I do? A couple key things you can do. Number one, plan to build out your business model, whatever you do, for the next 2 years. Super important, right? 2 years of planning. You need to plan it out for 2 years. If you can't see your financials for 2 years, like, and say, okay, at this 2-year point, I'm going to stop working on this business, or, right, I'm going to continue. And it's not just 2 years of like, I started thinking about this and then I launched in a year and then I'm another year. It's 2 years of like being launched, right? So let's say it takes you like 12 to 18 months to get in the door, to get your stuff ready to go. Then you have another 2 years of building, 2 years. And then you say, okay, do I want to do this or do I not want to do it? That is why having a business is a luxury. It is a stressful luxury. It is expensive, right? Like you can't create a $500 price point product because you think that like you're going to make and you're going to spend $25 on it and now your margin's $475 because you need to pay this person over here to be your graphic designer. Pricing doesn't work like that, right? Pricing works in a way that is a lot more dynamic. Pricing works in a way that is like about scale. You know, I mean, when you think about things that are like, you know, luxury brands or artisanal brands, right? It's like, you have to ask yourself, like, where is the profitability and the margin in an artisanal brand, right? Like, that is hard to do. You want to be strategic, right? It's like, we're so lucky that manufacturing and materials and all of that on like environmental friendly goods is scalable now. Like, you can actually create an affordable product with products and things that are good for the environment. Like that was really, really hard for our industry to do. And we did it, which is like so amazing. But when it comes, guys, to like how you're building and growing, you know, you will hire mentors like me, right? You will hire consultants like me. You will go on Embark Live and like find other consultants and specialists who can help you. And you will vet them, right? It's like you will vet them. You won't just say like, oh yeah, like I think that sounds good. Like you will learn who they are before you spend $1 on working with them. okay, if you're just starting to work with a manufacturer and they've never know how much things are going to cost until you start, what's the best? It's a great point. Happens all the time, right? You're like, I have an idea. I don't know. I would say, like, you got to walk in knowing like what your non-negotiables are. Like, you're not going to build the most beautiful, amazing thing in the whole world. That's not going to be expensive, right? So like, there's common sense and logic in this. There's also a component of like, how do we actually like figure out the variance in the margin. So you may not get like a hard cost of goods, but you should be able to get like, hey, I'm looking for around this price point, right? And then it gets shaved. I got to tell you guys, even at the point where you place your purchase order, that's like 12 months down the road, you're still going to be negotiating on cost. Like, you are still going to be negotiating. Negotiating is not like a, hey, we landed on the price and then like we're done. It's like, no, there's always negotiations. Like, our industry is chaotic like that. I mean, it's just wild. Okay, how do you approach pricing yourself out of fast furniture or fast fashion? I don't know if I understand the question. So approach pricing yourself out of it, meaning like, how do you like price yourself as a fast fashion brand or fast furniture brand? I would look at your value proposition. Most of you guys don't realize that you think you're building these fashion brands or these brands. You're building media companies. You're building media brands. You're building exposure and digital strategy. Like, you are selling a product, but people are buying into your content and they're buying into who you are. And that's super important, right? I'm a consultant. People buy my time, but how do they know that they like me, or they want my agency to produce their brand DNA, or they want blah, blah, blah? They see my content, right? They see me, they see the client work that we've done. And that's why people hire us. And so when you're thinking about like pricing yourself as fast fashion or not, like, think about your digital strategy. Think about how you're launching this business into the world, and then ask yourself, you know, there are a couple different kinds of like disruptive innovation. You know, we look at disruptive innovation when it comes to things that are like, you know, disruptive innovation when you have like a mass market that needs to have, you know, the incumbent needs to be disrupted, right? And it's like, that means that, let's say you have this really cool idea and you're like, I'm going to undercut the market, right? Well, you need to take a look and see if that's possible for you, right? But when it comes to disruptive innovation or innovation in general, right, we have industries where we look at sustaining innovation over time, right? So how are we going to continue to iterate and sustain on innovation? And then we actually also have the point of disruptive innovation, right? Where we're trying to figure out like, how do we actually take market share away from the incumbents and actually create this market, but thereby pushing, right, those incumbents into a higher space. So herdesk.co, if you actually have a disruptive idea, we should talk. But you need to be able to figure out like, who are the people in the game, and are you going to be able to push them out of the market because of what you're doing, right? Super important. I'm going to take this last question on about price points, and then I'm going to have to sign off. But it's been really, I feel like it's been a rapid download kind of day. People often wonder like how it is I get so enthusiastic and excited about this. I got to tell you guys, I started looking at retail and wrote my first paper on why things went on sale at Macy's when I was 9 years old. So like, there's something like really wrong with me. But it's amazing, and I love retail and I love our industry. Okay. So how do I get price points for purse manufacturer? I give them a price. Yeah, so guys, remember, like, a lot of the times you'll go to a manufacturer expecting them to take advantage of you. So you might say, I'm gonna get the lowest price possible, and then I'm gonna mark it up. Actually, they know what your price point's gonna be when they see it on your site. Like, there's no point in trying to like get over on anybody, right? It's like, you shouldn't be trying to like cheat your manufacturer of something, you know? It's like, it's a partnership. You guys are building partnerships, right? Hopefully your manufacturer is with you for years and you love them and you can build business. You're not trying to just undercut them on something. It's about like, hey, what's fair here, right? Like, how do we actually make this, like, how do we make this fair? How do we make this a win-win for all of us? So the notion of exploiting the manufacturer, them exploiting labor, how we can all kind of, make another quick dollar. No, it's about how do we create a great product for a great customer that allows us to all be profitable and to scale. And the best business models are the ones that scale, right? It's like you want to be a sustaining business model. Okay, I'm picking up this other question and then I'm going to sign off. Business model strategic plan is required even before manufacturing my product. Can you share with us a free business model template that we can get started and think things through more clearly? JB, thank you for that question. I don't have a free template. Nothing I do is free. So I don't have a free template, but I do like to talk. And so you can always find me doing all sorts of Instagram lives and, kind of being out there. But unfortunately, don't have a free template. Wouldn't suggest a free template either, just because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be about just plugging things into the hole. You really got to think strategically about things. And I think that that's super, super important. So guys, you can find me on Maker's Row. I'm at Scaling Retail. Scaling Retail is, one of my passion babies. It's like the thing I realized after years of working at like Barney's and Gucci and Macy's and all these companies and then working at startups and all that kind of stuff. It's like I've created this incredible platform where I get to build brands, I get to help them make money, and I get to like do it with a lot of passion and being really like on the nose most of the time. So guys, thank you so much for your time, your energy, being with me these last 20 minutes. Really fun and exciting to be able to share information. You guys know where to find me. Please stay safe, focus on community, keep your health up. Don't get too stressed out. I can say this, like we are making sweaters, we're making furniture, we're not curing COVID, we're not curing cancer. So like be kind to yourself in this process. Stay diligent, focused, work on your strategic plans, and quit writing business plans. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.